How are you? How is Real Madrid coming into tomorrow's exciting Club World Cup quarter-final?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. And if you'll allow me, before I answer, on behalf of both myself and the club, we want to send our deepest condolences to the families of Diego Jota and André Silva. We're sending them a big hug from here. It was very sad news that really affected all of us. We started the day with this sense of reflection and we talked about it. So yes, from myself and from the club, we send them all our strength, courage, and support to his daughter, his family, and his children. Now, focusing on our match, we're doing well. We've entered the knockout stage, and after the round of 16 against Juventus, you want to keep progressing. The next step is the quarterfinals, and we're facing Dortmund, a top European team, very used to competing in the Champions League. In fact, they played the final against Madrid just last year in the quarters. It's going to be an intense match, and we'll need to perform at a high level. It will have its different phases, but we're excited and ready.
How's Kylian Mbappé doing? Is he fit, and will he finally start tomorrow?
Kylian is feeling better. He's been improving day by day and has trained well these past 3 days. Just like the last time, we'll make the decision tomorrow morning.
There's been a football debate lately about who should or will play as the number 9 tomorrow. Gonzalo, who's on a hot streak and is the top scorer, or Mbappé, who's now back and potentially ready to start. Do you already know? Can you give us a clue?
Pretty much the same answer. Tomorrow morning, we'll have the final info. I like to keep some decisions open until the last minute. Some things are already decided, others are not, and this is one of them. We'll fine-tune the starting 11 tomorrow, and I usually prefer the players to know the lineup before the press. So I know you'll keep asking, but I'll keep disappointing you with my answers. That's going to be the trend this season.
With Gonzalo, in theory, you now have 3 strikers. Of course, others can play there too, but you've got Kylian, Endrick, and now Gonzalo. I wanted to ask if you count on all 3 for the squad, or if Endrick or Gonzalo might leave on loan this summer to get more minutes.
No, I count on all 3. I'm happy with them. Endrick is still recovering, but of course, we're counting on him. In terms of planning the squad, we're not at that point yet. Right now, we're more focused on immediate performance on this tournament, which is intense like any World Cup. Obviously, the tournament itself gives you information, but any decisions will come later. We haven't really even discussed it yet.
This morning, Niko Kovac said that Madrid plays like Leverkusen. When you're in a situation where you and the opposing coach know each other well, does that make it easier or harder to prepare for the game? Do you overthink because you know the other coach might be overthinking that you're overthinking? How does that dynamic work?
Well, we coaches sometimes make overthinking. But I think tomorrow's Dortmund looks more like the Dortmund we faced in May with Leverkusen than the Leverkusen that faced Madrid. The squads and players are different. The only similarity is me and a few of the staff that came from there. So the style of play is a bit different, the concepts too. You have to adapt ideas to the players, and we've been doing that. But Dortmund is a good team. I think since Niko took over, they've been improving steadily, and they're competing well. I've studied them, but in the end, it's the players who win games on the field. Dortmund's ideas haven't changed too much.
I wanted to ask if Mbappé and Gonzalo could play together at some point. In the press, we often say it's one or the other, but is it possible? Even with Vinny and Bellingham also in the mix.
Yes, of course, they can play together. It depends on the moment, on what the match demands. I think they can complement each other. If the context calls for it, it's definitely not something I'm ruling out.
After analysing the last match and the one against Salzburg, what do you think of using 3 centre-backs and then switching during the game to 2 at the back? And in such a short tournament, do you think the players can fully grasp it in order to be as competitive as you need them to be?
Well, time is more limited, right? And insisting on an idea, working on it, correcting it, it's all a bit more constrained. But yes, I do believe that, for example, Aurel can play both roles. He can even be hybrid during a match, playing one way in one phase and another way in a different moment. So, no, we're not going to lock ourselves into saying this is the only way to play. I think that kind of flexibility gives us more options to find solutions, even during matches. Against Juve, we expected them to press higher, but they sat back more. Tomorrow with Dortmund, we'll see what their plan is, and we'll also need to find solutions during the match. The players have played against them many times, they know them well, and they'll be the ones making the final decisions based on our preparation.
We're seeing a more aggressive version of Valverde. Getting into the box more, he's already scored 2 goals, and he had the most shots on target against Juventus. You may not know, but 2 years ago, Carlo Ancelotti bet his coaching license that Valverde would reach 10 goals. I wonder if you'd be willing to do the same and set a goal target for the Uruguayan.
Well, Carlo had such a long career that he could afford to take that risk. I'm just starting out, so I won't gamble that early. But yes, Fede definitely has that quality. He's a threat, whether shooting from outside the box or making runs from deeper positions. I said recently he's a very complete player. If he has to play deeper, he can, but if he needs to push forward, he can do that too. I believe he'll score a lot this season, but we're not making any bets.
I think everyone here agrees that in the last 2 matches, the team played really well in the second half, especially after you had a chance to talk to them at halftime. Against Juventus, for example, we saw great football in the second half against a tough opponent. You spoke of rock and roll on your first day here. Is that close to the version of rock and roll you have in mind? And is Arda Güler a key part of that? Someone who can transform your team?
Well, rock and roll is about action, right? And yes, we're in that action now. Sometimes it works out better than others, but we need that energy, that rhythm, that intensity, because starting tomorrow, it's win or go home. We need to feel that adrenaline in our play, to be fully engaged and present in every action, and that helps. Then with cooling breaks, you try to give quick instructions as effectively as possible. We're having good spells in matches, yes, but we need to keep working on being more consistent and maintaining those good phases without dropping off. We're working on that.
I wanted to ask you about Tchouaméni. You always speak highly of him. What surprised you most about the Frenchman? And was he the type of player you expected when you arrived?
Yes, more or less. I'd seen a lot of Oral before, but then you get to know him up close and realize he has the ability to adapt, to play in different roles. He's smart when it comes to understanding concepts. And for me, that position is key. Not just him, but everyone who plays in that central zone where everything happens. We need to find the right balance and combination to be strong in the middle.
You've been playing Arda Güler in a new role this season, deeper, in a double pivot alongside Valverde. In some matches, due to his physicality, he's lost some individual duels or misplaced balls. How do you teach a player like Arda, who's still developing defensively? Can he improve positioning, orientation, awareness? What advice do you give him to limit that weakness in this new role?
Well, it's about positioning, anticipating instead of reacting. If your positioning is better, you might get to the duel earlier and not have to rely so much on your physicality. We know it's part of Arda's learning curve. He'll make mistakes, but also have success. And of course, we're not in a phase where we can allow too many mistakes, but maybe it's a moment to invest in his development. He can play near the double pivot and also push forward. And he's doing well. We're encouraging him to keep growing, to mature, to accept that mistakes are part of that growth. If we want Arda to be important in that role, we have to help him go through this process.
From Brazil, it seems like Rodrigo is far from his best form, even emotionally. Do you think Rodrigo can get back to his top level in your Real Madrid?
Yes, I'm sure he can. Obviously, every player wants to play, but I spoke to Rodrigo yesterday, and his mindset is positive, he's eager, and he's ready for whenever he is needed.
In the last match, Fede asked to be subbed off due to fatigue. How have you seen the players physically so far? How do you plan to manage that moving forward, especially now with the venue change?
Yes, in the final stretches of games, some players do feel the impact of the conditions, not just us. I heard Tudor from Juve say his players also finished with problems. It's something we have to deal with. In some cases, we've tried to make subs earlier. Last match, we held off a bit because it was still 1-0. Fede always gives his all. He came in with a slight issue, but has recovered well and will be fine for tomorrow.
We've talked a few times about how you use cooling breaks to give instructions. As a modern coach, are you in favor of introducing timeouts in football like in other sports? Or are you more traditional in that regard?
Well, when you get one, you try to make the most of it, but I think football should evolve naturally in a way that doesn't disrupt the flow of the game. So maybe, I won't say no, but under normal circumstances, I'm not sure would be the best idea.
We arrived in New York thinking we'd see a kind of mini Champions League. But now there's already one Brazilian team in the semi-finals, and maybe another one coming. Has this World Cup been about parity, or do you think talent and European hierarchy will ultimately prevail? And since I'm Argentine, laughs, forgive me, but I have to ask about Mastantuono. He turns 18 on August 14th. Will you have him available before then, or only after he reaches legal age?
No, this World Cup is showing us the high competitive level that exists in many other leagues. Maybe we Europeans aren't as familiar with leagues like the Saudi League, like Al Hilal, or the Brazilian one, or even the Argentine League, despite Argentina not making it to the round of 16. I think it's a positive thing for world football. Sometimes in Europe, we're too Champions League centered and we think that's all that matters, but that's not the case. And now we'll see what happens between Chelsea and Palmeiras, right? As for your second question, no. Once he turns 18, that's when he'll join us.
I want to ask, knock on wood, if you make it to the final, you'll only have 4 weeks left before La Liga starts. How are you and your coaching staff planning pre-season? Lots of training in Valdebebas? Few friendlies? Any time off?
Well, we're working on it step by step, but yes, we do need to start anticipating and organizing everything. The players will need a break, we'll all need some vacation time because it's been a long season. Then there won't be much time for training. Most of it will be done at Valdebebas. We're not planning any training camps abroad. We still have to confirm when the league will start, but it's going to be a typical shortened pre-season. In just a short time, we'll have to start a new season, 2025-2026, already with decisions made regarding players and everything else. We'll be thinking 10 months ahead again.
I wanted to ask about Borussia Dortmund. In the first 30 minutes against Monterrey, they completely dominated. But in the final 30 minutes, they were on the back foot. What do you think caused that? Was it Monterrey's doing, or more of a physical issue?
I think it was partly due to the 2-0 scoreline. They wanted to protect the result, but also credit to Monterrey, who actually created chances in the first half too. There were a couple of one-on-one situations. In the second half, the score stayed at 2-1 and it stayed pretty even, but Monterrey did well. Then Dortmund maybe dropped back a bit and gave Rayados more initiative.
To keep with tradition, what's the medical update? How are the injured players? And does the high-stakes nature of these win-or-go-home matches influence how you manage those coming back from injury in terms of responsibility and intensity?
The squad list will remain the same. The only one is Eduardo Camavinga. He's doing better, but it's still a bit early for him to return tomorrow. Everything else is the same. They're all doing well. Emil and Carva are adding training sessions. We'll see what the final call is. And yes, the importance of the match is clear. That's just how it is.